It's another family dinner. You've barely sat down and it starts. Your aunt leans in with that knowing smile. So, anyone special? And everyone at the table turns to look at you, like being single is a riddle they need to solve. Or maybe it's a coworker tilting their head, saying, "But you're so great, how are you still single?" As if being single is a problem your face should have solved by now. Society has a habit of treating singlehood like a waiting room, a rough draft before your real life begins. But here is what nobody tells you. For a growing number of people, staying single isn't a failure to find love. It is a conscious, psychological choice. In this video, we are breaking down the psychology of solo living and why some people choose to stay single. We're going to explore attachment styles, hyper-independence, and the actual neuroscience of solitude. You aren't picky. You aren't broken. Let's get into it. First, we have to look at the data. A researcher named Eliakim Kislev spent years tracking thousands of married couples across decades, and what he found caught everyone off guard. Happiness does spike the year you get married. That part is real. But then, it drops right back down to the baseline of where it was before. Married or single, the long-term happiness levels basically even out. Then there's social psychologist Bella DePaulo. She coined a term that is going to make a lot of sense to you: single at heart. It means there is an entire category of people for whom singlehood isn't a consolation prize. It's not settling. It is their most authentic, fulfilling way of living. These are people who prioritize peace over drama. You know your own rhythm. You know exactly what drains you and what gives you the space to breathe. And somewhere along your healing journey, you stopped being willing to negotiate your peace just to fill a societal box that says "in a relationship." There is a psychological concept by Robert Copeland that explains this perfectly. We all know what loneliness is: craving connection and not having it. But Copeland coined the opposite: aloneliness. Aloneliness is when you desperately need quiet, you need solitude, and you just can't get it. Needing the space to exist without performing for anyone, and being denied that space. If you are someone who actively protects your alone time, you aren't being selfish. Psychologists call this autonomy. Not the motivational poster version, but the real psychological ability to make choices that align with who you actually are. You wake up on a Saturday. No plan, no compromise, no guilt. You read for 3 hours because nobody's asking when you'll be done. Most people underestimate how rare genuine freedom actually is. When you stop apologizing for your independence, that isn't loneliness, that is optimization. But here is the paradox that society gets wrong. People assume that those who choose solo living are cold, guarded, or unloving. The reality? They often love the deepest. Single people don't have less love in their lives. They have it spread across deep, intentional communities, friends, family, people they actively chose. They simply refuse to love carelessly. They would rather be alone for years than give their energy to a dynamic that drains them. They won't settle for someone who treats their heart like an afterthought or a convenience. That is a massive sign of emotional intelligence. It looks like hyper-independence from the outside, but on the inside, it is simply profound self-respect. But we have to look at the other side of the coin, because there is an uncomfortable truth about the psychology of solo living that we have to talk about. Maybe you were the kid who watched your parents tear each other apart, or the one who saw a parent slowly disappear into a marriage that consumed them. Somewhere in that environment, a quiet thought formed: I am never going to let that happen to me. That thought protected you. But there is a very fine line between choosing to be single because you genuinely love your own company and choosing to be single because you are terrified of letting someone in. One feels like freedom, the other feels like armor. Psychologists call this avoidant attachment. If your independence is rooted in a fear of vulnerability, your solo living might be a trauma response rather than a true preference. The question you have to ask yourself is this: does my solitude feel like peace, or does it feel like hiding? Most days it might feel like one, and some days the other. That's just being human. Noticing the difference is the first step. You don't have to fix it today. You are not a rough draft waiting for someone to come along and make you whole. You are whole right now, exactly as you are. If this hit home for you, drop a comment and tell me which part stuck with you the most. Was it the single at heart concept or the armor of avoidant attachment? I read every single one. Subscribe to The Adaptive Self for more psychology facts that give you the language for what you've always felt. I'll see you in the next one.